So I'm going to be the person that asks you to stand up. Sitting's the new smoking, and we all smoke 2 packs a day. So stand up, and we're going to take the lights down, lower some of our consumption in this room. And so I would like to ask you 2 questions. Stay standing if you've felt overwhelmed by climate change. Yeah, all right. Stay standing if you learned something new tonight. Yeah, all right. Look around, you're not alone. Okay, stay standing if you had a family member impacted by the floods in Calgary or the fires in Fort McMurray. Everyone else sit down. Stay standing if you had somebody impacted in your family. Everybody else sit down. This is what climate change looks like. Okay, you can sit down now. Thanks for playing along. All right, so green button, is that what happens here? All right, so I come from a long line of conservers. This is my Poppy Ralph and 2 of his 14 children that he raised on the northern peninsula of Newfoundland as a cod fisher in the summer and a seal hunter in the winter. I also come from a long line of troublemakers. These are my parents. They taught me not only to be a troublemaker, but how to talk about sex, religion, politics, and the environment. Because my mom's family saw firsthand what happens when the environment changes and when the cod goes away. I had a pretty normal childhood. I grew up in Alberta, just outside of Edmonton in our industrial heartland called Fort Saskatchewan. I remember the heartbreaking day when I found out that the oil and gas industry around us weren't just making clouds. But I also went on to do industrial design, focus on sustainability at the U of A. And one day I met this glorious fellow named Simon Knight. Some of you in the room probably have met him before. And he put this pie chart up on the screen. I promise I only have 1 pie chart and 1 graph in this presentation. And so we spend 86% of our time indoors, 5.5% in our cars, and 7.6% outside. Now, I know as a bunch of greenies in the room, you're probably going, no, that doesn't apply to me. I spend far more time outside than this pie chart. And I think the same about myself, but I can tell you if you start adding up how much you work inside and how much you live inside and how much you sleep inside and how often you come to lectures inside, that we don't go outside far enough. So go outside, fall in love, be remembered why we do what we do. Because I'm sad to tell you, after a decade in this industry, there's not a lot of good news out there. And so find those happy places, because you're going to need them. And so the impact of buildings globally is what has motivated me. Everybody in this room is going to have different motivators. And when it comes to data, buildings have a huge impact when we start talking about this whole climate change issue. So 30 to 40% of our greenhouse gas emissions, and Mike and Robin and the rest of the team here have been working hard here at the City of Edmonton to get some sort of baseline and then some movement on this. Also 30 to 40% of our solid waste generation and 25 to 40% of our energy use. So if I'm going to focus all of my energy on something, I picked buildings because I felt like if I changed even 1% of something, 1% is a lot in this whole story. So in 2006, as Mike had mentioned, I've co-founded a firm called EcoAmmo. We jokingly called ourselves the Bombshells, and we're an all-women firm trying to change the world from a business focus within construction. And so this team is absolutely fantastic. We've added some more partners, but within that, staying in Edmonton, I got to do amazing things. I got to meet David Suzuki. Check that bucket list off. I also got to crush beers with him. Bucket list I didn't even know. This is at my friend Shafraz and Serena's beautiful net zero house. And David Suzuki came to film an episode there. Life complete. I also got to work with some disruptors here in Edmonton on a project called the Mosaic Center. If you don't know about it, check out the website. There's tons of videos. But it was built and designed by Edmontonians. We did not bring people in from other places to tell us how to build a net zero LEED platinum certified building. We had the talent in our market. And so this is what the design was. And if you're ever hungry on the south side, go to the Workshop Eatery. You can see this building. This is what it looks like from the outside. It's net zero because we have 213 kilowatts up on the roof. We can nerd out later. And we have geo exchange that helps us with all of our heating and cooling. And so I would like to ask a question. Why is all of this so complex? Why have we created our own vernacular and then confused why people are confused? So maybe it's too abstract and complex. We get charts up on the screen, and I love Blair over at the Mosaic Center on climate adaptation. If you've never seen him present, check him out. He's fantastic. He puts really powerful graphs up on here. So down on this end is when I was born, 1982. If you want to do that math later, go ahead. And this is just a steady increase on the costs of extreme weather. I spent the last week in Toronto around folks in real estate and insurance. They're taking climate change more serious than some of our governments globally because it costs money. If you look, it was under $250 million when I was born. Now it's just getting over $5 billion. But this is still too abstract, isn't it? You're probably like, snore, end of the night, another bar graph, great. This is what that Fort McMurray fire looks like to me and my family. So I had over a dozen family members displaced. Of course, again, came from the northern peninsula of Newfoundland, right? Most of my family immigrated as essentially economic refugees to northern Alberta to work in oil and gas, not because it was in alignment with their values or their vision of what kind of a career they wanted, but that's where the jobs were. And so, I'm gonna try not to get emotional. So within this displacement, I'm getting all these Facebook posts from my family during the fires, wondering if they're gonna get out, because I know where they live. They live in all the places that the news is saying is on fire. And so I just want to point out the end of her post here. It was hard to close the door to my home and drive away thinking that everything was going to be gone. And she literally drove away. She put her young boys in the back of their truck and watched that in their rearview mirror. And so this is what climate change looks like to me. This is what motivates me to try and have the most amount of impact I can. And 21 months later, these houses are just now, some of them, ready for occupancy. Could you imagine not having a house for coming up on 2 years? How that Christmas feels in that, birthdays, weddings, all these other pieces? And so we're starting to see reports around the mental health, but we're not really tying it to the root cause, which is climate change. And unfortunately, we took a population that could have been advocates and passionate about climate change, and what do? We kicked them when they were down. We said, serves them right for working in oil and gas. This is what climate change looks like. And so I think it's really important for us to look at the human aspect of this, but also to stay optimistic. This is a hard industry to be in, and we have a lot of work to do, and we can't lose any more folks. We need to make sure we stay optimistic. So within the fire, and I'm totally over time, but some people were short, so I'm gonna use it. So within the fires, I saw climate leadership. I saw it both from a community and family perspective, but I also saw it politically. And so this was one of many reasons why I chose to run in the last municipal election here in the city of Edmonton. Mayor Melissa Blake and Rachel Notley took a whole lot of leadership before, during, and after the fire around climate change. So I did run for council, finished in the top 3, didn't win. That's all right, I'll run again, because I am persistent. So I also truly believe, as a city here in Edmonton, I chose to stay here. And there's a lot of other people that chose to stay here or chose to move here. And we need this type of leadership that understands the abstract aspects of climate change, but also understands how it impacts our communities. And so I joined a disruptor in the building industry. I joined a company called View. Google it later, it's pretty cool. But it's taking the Internet of Things and looking at how we can make buildings more efficient, yes, from an energy perspective, but also how do we make them more comfortable for people? Architects are lovely at making incredible buildings that are absolutely uncomfortable for the occupants. And so how do we make that better? I also stay optimistic because there are incredible organizations like Women in Renewable Energy. Write it down, it's incredible. It's called WIRE, and it launched here in Alberta this year to a sold-out house. Shannon Phillips just showed up. She found out about the event and popped by. And so that keeps me optimistic. So does IDEA. They get so many people out that are so passionate about infill. What? In Edmonton? If you read the news, you think it's so divisive and that nobody wants it in their neighborhoods, but they consistently get hundreds of people to events. I also am really proud that the City of Edmonton stayed true to its commitment for LEED certification, and the Canada Green Building Council is still doing some incredible work around net zero and zero carbon standards. And so I don't want to save the world to sit in the dark by myself. I don't. I want to create a world that all of us can still celebrate. We can all be really excited for all the achievements that we've had, and we can still, there's breweries out there that are net zero now too. There's wineries. There's all these things, right? So let's save the world so that we can celebrate what we've done. Thank you.